Welcome to the Connected Campus Podcast, where we explore the ways that diverse professionals are working every day to optimize their efforts to recruit, retain, and graduate their students.
Welcome, everybody, to another super special live episode of the Connected Campus Podcast. I'm joined by Loui for today's episode. So you started a few months before I did, but I feel like you have, as we've kind of been uncovering through all of our Meet Pathify episodes, like you have a unique connection that brought you in. So we'll talk all about that and your background and everything. But if you want to introduce yourself and your professional background, then we'll get to all the other questions.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, first of all.
Thanks
Great to be here. My name is Loui, and I have been with Pathify for just over a year now, celebrated my 1-year anniversary. I found Pathify through a dear, dear friend of mine, Gia. I trust her. We go way back. We went to college together. We went to University of Alabama. Roll Tide. I've got to throw that in there. Those roots definitely go deep. But she had been working at Pathify, and she obviously, knowing her for a long time, she said, this company is great. And so I was looking for something different, kind of coming out of a different industry. So to give you a little bit of background on me and where I came from, I was a musical theater major with Gia and did a little stint of touring, national touring, which is not really sustainable for a long-term life. Can't have a cat, can't, build a life in that way. And then I, got into the fitness industry for a little while, business coaching and development, and, just wanted to find something different. And so Gia led me to Pathify, and it has been a wild ride ever since. So
Yeah. And I think that's like what's interesting too is that, there are a fair amount of people that came up through higher ed paths, and I had a traditional higher ed background and everything, but even just like bringing in people who as they sort of interview or explore or sort of understand, like there's obviously going to be something about it that sort of resonates and everything. So I guess to sort of like break down a little bit more of like how you found Pathify and almost like both ways that you could sort of like, how did you find it? Like how did it strike you or something? Because obviously like, you took Gia at her word kind of thing, like, hey, check it out and all that. But then like, what was it about it, like, as you talked with people other than her, or, like what resonated, made you actually want to kind of make the commitment?
yeah, well, I mean, get ready for a slice of cheese here, because really, truly, students are our future. That's really important to me. I believe in being able to set the groundwork for students to be able to be successful long term. I know that for my background in college, there was just a lot. I had a lot going on when I was there, and I didn't have the resources that I knew that I needed in order to be successful. And so looking back, I would have done it all differently. I didn't know that all of these things were available to me until I was gone. So I think it's really, really important. I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for Gen Z and kids that are just coming up through this crazy, crazy world that we live in. And so Pathify has a really strong mission in order to be able to actually equip them, and I think that's a really, really powerful thing to be connected to. So that's really what resonated to me. And I know it's cheesy, but it's true. So
no, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people do sort of like acknowledge that, and maybe like some feel that, but they like, oh, I don't know, it's like, cheesy or whatever. But like it is, it's all about the students, and
right.
There's so many ways that we can, just sort of facilitate positive experiences. And something I think about a lot where sort of Pathify comes in is that idea where like there were things out there that you didn't know about, where it could be like, oh, we got all these things, like we're here, we've built it, and they will come and whatever. But it's like the modality of like sort of the delivery, the sort of, how you're informing people about what's going on and everything, like matters just as much as what you're sort of,
right.
Building all around them. So it is like exciting to be, I think at this stage, because a lot of institutions have implemented pretty robust support services, it's like, okay, well, the next phase is like making them as accessible as possible. Like you know they're important, you've invested in them, you've made the space. So then it's kind of just interesting that sort of like, I guess kind of from how you're saying it, sort of like dawned upon you as you sort of like saw that like there's an opportunity if you want to do this kind of work, and you sort of like looking at it and you're like, that would be pretty incredible. Like you just weren't as if it was like, oh, I've wanted to do it forever and I've just been like whatever. Just sort of like, wow, okay, like yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Well,
awesome. At least for me, I think it's important to be connected to a purpose, right? I mean, your job is a lot of your life. It is at least 40 hours a week. So it helps to feel passionate about it, and to find something that you can do, without getting bored of it, without getting tired, and actually feeling like you're making a difference in the world. So, yeah.
Well, and like you said, like you came up through like musical theater and like kind of had that traveling experience and all that. And it's kind of like I was thinking about like people who are like professional athletes or something. It's like you kind of like hit that peak early, and then it's just like, okay, well then like what's next? And you have to like sort of, start to kind of Goldilocks your way maybe through other opportunities and stuff. So
Totally.
I'm very happy that you found us and we found you and all that. And you work on our like broadly revenue team and the sales function. So for folks who aren't aware, like you're the senior sales development representative. What does that mean? What do you do on a daily basis?
Oh my goodness. Well, I do a lot of things on a daily basis. And being a senior SDR, as we call it for short, SDR, sales development representative, basically on the front lines, in the trenches, getting the word out, so on a consistent basis, I'm calling people saying, hey, do you know about Pathify? In much more fancy words than that on the phone, of course, but really just trying to connect with people and get the word out in order to be able to lay the foundation for our account executives to be able to step in. They're a little bit more technically inclined than the front lines, which, as a side note here, being an SDR for this company, and really any company, is a really great way to get to learn a new industry. My background specifically did not lend itself very well to higher education, other than the fact that I went to college, right? That's experience, or technology or software or anything like that either. I was able to come in and actually learn and be able to connect with other people that know a lot more what they're doing than I do, and be able to ask the hard questions, learn about the industry so that I can actually take that and then be able to contribute more and more and more as I become educated about the space that I'm in. But I call people, get the word out, try and cultivate that ability to grow, trying to blow this thing up, get into every school as we can, as many schools as we can.
Yeah. And a couple of things there where it's interesting of like you said, it's just trying to introduce yourselves, introduce Pathify, and that it's not like, trying to like shake people down on every call and every, because I think it's just that idea. People just have these notions about, salespeople and everything,
right.
But like, organizations or, anybody worth their salt is going to be much more sort of relationship driven. Like higher ed is very relationship driven and trying to create, strong partnership, like something that's going to last, because it's just sort of like, I'm trying to like sell you snake oil and sort of just get out of town or whatever, like it's, not going to be sustainable. But then it's a really good point because I've been in ed tech for several years and I've talked with a lot of people who are interested, and that's such a good point of if you have to like make the elevator pitch constantly or sort of, like be really knowledgeable, like that is such a great entry point. Like people are like, it does seem like it'd be cool to work, in ed tech and all that. And it's like these types of opportunities are like what you do are more sort of available, and that can be that point where it's like, you sort of, prove yourself there, and then you can maybe kind of pivot elsewhere. Maybe you keep moving up in that sort of trajectory. So I think that's just like, it's good advice for folks.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, even the best of friendships start with hello, and so that's a really, really important thing to know. And yes, it can be tough, right? You're going to get some rejections. You're going to get some, people that are not so happy about you calling them, and that's okay. That's part of it. We got thick skin.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, just like in marketing, it's almost like something like you're doing things, and less so nowadays, but like you're kind of like doing things into a void. You're kind of just like, hey, well, we like put out this message, like hopefully people see it, and hopefully they, it resonates and everything. So it is that idea of like the kind of endurance or sort of the commitment and just all that of like things that, anybody that sort of gets in that kind of position where it's like, those are just good things to have, like that idea where it's like you are sort of getting fulfillment from this now and are succeeding. And for anybody where it's just, again, it's like you could get really well immersed in a particular industry or particular organization. It's like, you don't have to do it forever, but you're also going to get really great skill. Like these, like that's awesome things of just being able to like strike up conversations with people, because like networking is super important, whatever you're doing. So like, so that's really awesome. And I guess just to kind of sit with that a little bit more too, of just sort of like, there are those hard parts about it, but like, what do you enjoy most about the work? Because obviously it is like, if you can sort of, thread the needle and kind of make that connection and sort of move it forward and everything, there's like, I'm sure there's, not a lot of feelings like it, I've, never kind of had that sort of interaction where like, I'm trying to like convince you of something and like, all that kind of stuff. So like, what do you enjoy a lot about the work?
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge question, right? I mean, for me personally, my favorite thing has been able to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to constantly grow and get into a new industry, not constantly get into a new industry, but immerse myself into what I'm doing and really become an expert in the field that I'm in. And so for me personally, I have really loved creating the connections and the relationships with this team. That is amazing. We hire some awesome people here. And as for my job specifically, it's great to see deals move forward. It's great to see us, close with a school and get them launched. That's really, really satisfying. And being able to watch that relationship grow. I'm still a little bit new, so I still, have to see some move forward, I guess.
Well, it takes a long time.
With a long sales cycle, but that's really satisfying. And being able to cultivate those relationships, that's really important as well. And so when I'm able to connect with someone on the phone, set them up with, one of my awesome colleagues, and then seeing that just go well and having it be a seamless experience, that's really fun. It's connecting people, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and trying to find that shared affinity or, so it's just trying to get to know people in sort of a purposeful way. Cause I think that's something where you get into spaces to network or whatever. And it's just people talking about the weather and everything else. And that's fine. It can be a very pleasant experience, but then you're just all right, see you later. But it's all right, I'm going to ask questions to actually get to know you. What's important to you? What are you struggling with? What are you looking for? But, and yeah, it's going to take time and all that. So it's you would see sort of a seed that you planted, one of your first calls or something, that idea where it's it's going to take a while and that might still sort of blossom in the near future. And that's that idea of wow, okay, that sort of hard work and follow through and everything. And I know something else for you that is interesting because I think obviously some people on the team do it more or less. It's just you get to go out to conferences and events and sort of, do all that sort of stuff. So what about that experience, I guess, of because I guess it's one of those tough things that somebody's it's part of my job, I'm going to do it. But is that something that you particularly enjoy, or sort of what's that dynamic? Because I know I worked in my first week, worked the booth for the first time ever in my entire career. So that was just very enlightening to just see that sort of perspective as somebody who loves walking show floors. So it's just sort of a little bit more empathy for the other side. So I think that the in-person, the events, the stuff that you get involved with in addition to sort of the day-to-day.
Oh, absolutely. That is so much fun. I love that. I mean, first of all, getting to travel and see different places, I have a background in that as well. So I love to see new cities and, have this big, deep, just heavily, just experience,
right.
It's
big concentrated and
drinking from the fire hose. That's a really, really fun thing because you get to see people, face to face, especially given the past couple years. It's face to face is a little bit of gift now, you know? And so you get to meet people and people are a little bit more willing to open up when you're with them at a conference. You get to shake hands, you get to give out some swag, they always like that. That's always fun. But that's a really, really enjoyable thing to do. And I wish we could do that. Oh gosh, all the time. Gia would kill us if we went all the time. She's like, no, only what we can handle. But that's a really, really fun aspect of the job. Absolutely, is being able to see people and build those connections and relationships a little bit more organically than we would otherwise of hey, give me 25 seconds, please,
right,
on the phone.
And because I think that's the idea is that one, the way that we're able to show up and great swag, people love it. And we try to bring sort of the fun atmosphere and that sure. People on the team are always just so hungry for it because for all those reasons that you mentioned. So it's one, we can't be everywhere all at once. We got to be strategic. And then it's just we can't send everybody to every single thing. We wish we could, but so sort of that kind of rotation and,
right.
I think everybody seems to be very much looking forward to whatever the next event they can get to is. And,
for sure.
And I guess something else too, just because I'm really just to kind of expand, because I think you have so many sort of unique perspectives on Pathify, even being new, is that we have a concentration of folks here in Denver. So I think you have that sort of ability to kind of take advantage of the network of people that are here. So any reflections or thoughts on that of just sort of that was part of sort of your learning experience to being able to be a little bit more tightly woven in with your colleagues?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's really fun to be able to be here and we can, come together. So I'm in Denver, local, quite a bit of the team is in Denver. So whenever we get the opportunity to have our lovely, wonderful out-of-town people come in town, then we go, to a co-working space. We get to spend time, hug some necks and shake some hands and spend some time. But we also get the flexibility to work from home the majority of the time. That is such a powerful thing, especially for my role. I need to kind of be focused on what I'm doing, and so I'm able to do that, but then also kind of bridge the gap to spend time with people that I work with. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of your life, and so it helps to be able to like people, you know what I mean? Yeah. And not only like them, but actually really enjoy them. So that's been nice.
Yeah, and I think it's like really cool just the balance. I think just trying to sort of like really kind of give the wider sort of perspective on Pathify is like emphasizing how beneficial and just the whole remote culture that we have and sort of the hybrid culture for folks that are here and everything. So it's like we can really try to keep a very intentional balance of sort of the best of both worlds and all of that. So if
absolutely
bring people together, it's going to be very intentional and purposeful, and people have the flexibility and sort of the comfort to work from home and everything too.
Oh, absolutely.
So final question, you just hit a year. You're sort of keep on trucking and hustling with everything that you're doing, and so you moving up and everything. So what are you looking forward to with your work as you're looking at the horizon?
Oh my gosh, what a huge question. What am I not looking forward to, Dustin?
Everything, all of it, yeah.
No, I'm excited to blow this thing up. What we do here is really, really powerful. It's important. It's cutting edge. We've got fantastic leadership on board. Chris Hagan is a good friend of mine. He's the CTO. He's in another episode that you've done at some point here. But he's leading the team in such a great way that I'm really excited about. Chase and Jimmy at the helm as well is something, it's a force to be reckoned with. So it's just a great team to be a part of. I know that we've got great minds and leaders at the helm of the ship. It's one that's worth being on. And so I'm just really excited to have Pathify become a household name, and we're well on our way. We've hit some really fun milestones recently. So just one step at a time. But I'm excited to be able to share the message with more people and develop in my growth when it comes to diving deep in the industry, learning more, being able to contribute more. And just grow, right?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Just like it's a lean, mean team of like awesome people, and obviously we just have to kind of like go with the flow to an extent of just sort of like interfacing with AI or just sort of other like market dynamics or anything else. And
I'm so excited about that.
So it's like sometimes where it's just like, hey, I don't know exactly what's next. I can't predict the future, but it's like excited to see what's going to happen and take it. It's all as a learning opportunity and all that kind of stuff. So
totally.
Just thank you so much for hanging out and sharing all you did. And
you bet.
It's another episode of Meeting Pathify here. So always good to chat with folks.
Love it. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to The Connected Campus. Please leave a 5-star review for the show and share it so others can discover us. Make sure to also subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Connected Campus.